John, we're treading on dangerous waters, but you can't keep a good crony down. We're back with the international edition of the CRONY Awards. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's great to be here. What an exciting night. I can feel the electricity in the air. I know you can too.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is so exciting. Looking at the red carpet and watching everybody arrive. What a night. This is really something I think everybody's been looking forward to.
Yeah. I tell you, more than electricity, I'm feeling a change in the barometric pressure here. I got a bit of a pain in my wrist, so something odd may be about to happen weather-wise here in New York City. And John, we should open the broadcast. You can see that we've got the CRONY standing there. It's newly redesigned, the CRONY Award. And because we have had some maybe visually challenged, maybe mentally challenged individuals viewing this in the past, I wanted to make it very clear. This is not an Oscar. This is not an actual awards show. This is
not
parody.
A Tony?
Not a Tony.
That's not a Tony.
It's not a Tony.
That's a CRONY. It's a CRONY.
That's a CRONY. Exactly.
It looks a lot like somebody that I know. It looks a lot like somebody that I know.
But a little similar, I would say. Definitely, there's a family resemblance. I think he might have the same glasses as you.
Something like that, yeah. Definitely it's not an Emmy. It's definitely not a Tony. No. It's definitely not an Oscar. It's definitely not a Golden Globe. It's a CRONY. And we're here to present the International CRONY Awards for excellence in virus management. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of people get confused by is the nature of the show. In fact, you were just on David Knight's show again this week, right? You were on with David Knight this past week, right? And I think as well-meaning and as well-intentioned, and I love David, as he is, as well-intentioned as he is, I think even he thought we were poking fun at the countries in the last award show that we did. And we're not really poking fun. The truth is as much as this is satire and tongue-in-cheek and we're putting a bit of a comedic spin on it, the truth is the data that you're about to see is accurate and true. And what we are applauding is remarkable performances. Now, some people believed, and these are people who don't really read, I think believed that, what were they saying, Jason, that we were poking fun at? Or
in the lawsuit. So let's catch people up just a little bit, John, because part of the reason we're giving this disclaimer to let everybody know that this is not an actual awards show. This is a parody of awards shows, which it's become a bit redundant, John, because they're sort of a parody of themselves. They've got some pretty unintelligent people holding executive positions. They've got some even less intelligent people representing them legally who seem to think that you and I created an awards show that could somehow be confused. Hapless viewers might be confused that you and I are somehow giving out awards to people. And the wording that they had was that we were giving awards to people who refused to lock down. That was 100% incorrect. It's been refuted in my answer to the lawsuit. The first edition of the CRONY Awards was awarding people who had successfully mitigated the fatal effects of the virus and had a great outcome.
So let's be clear. So first of all, I apologize that you're having to deal with this lawsuit when I'm the one who put the deck together and made the awards. I think they didn't like the way you used their statue, but at the end of the day, the net of this is their misunderstanding of what the whole show was about. So let's be real clear on what we're doing here. We were not applauding places that didn't lock down. If that's what you think, you're mistaken. We were not applauding places that were not wearing masks. If that's what you think, you were mistaken. We're applauding places that have few deaths. Period. We don't know why. That's the irony that we're trying to bring to the forefront. We don't know why. And that's why we turn to professionals. That's why we turn to doctors like Cyril Wecht to better understand what we're seeing here, right? But what I can tell you certainly is that we're not giving any medical advice, right? And everything that we're going to cite here is coming from Johns Hopkins, the CDC, Worldometers, the World Health Organization, and that's it. Those are the sources. Okay, not the National Enquirer, not the Sun, not the Daily Mirror. Everything here is coming from the CDC, the WHO. Okay, so forgive me, I couldn't get my tux altered in time. I was going to go top hat and tails tonight, and it seemed appropriate. But why don't we dive into it?
Before we move off of this, John, I think it's very important that we point out not only that the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences got this wrong. I just realized I need to contact the Hollywood Reporter and let them know that they need to amend this article because it incorrectly reiterates here a statement from the complaint that the defendant used the images to market the CRONY Awards honoring countries that refused to lock down for the pandemic. That's not what we did.
No. I mean, you might as well say we were baking muffins. I mean, it's so far off of what we actually were talking about. It's like, obviously they didn't actually watch the show, right? And I remember, again, go back 30 years ago, and I remember that before he turned strange, Howard Stern used to get a lot of critiques, but people weren't listening. Everybody would critique him, but they weren't listening to what he was saying. And I feel... I kind of feel a certain kinship there, even though he kind of jumped the shark. When people are judging you and they don't actually look at the material, it's a bit bizarre. So
it's even worse when they're suing you, and it's triply bad when essentially the same organization, they've got all these different branches. That's why we're the International CRONY Awards today. The International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences has actually gone ahead and given a real Emmy to the governor of New York, someone who actually did make terrible decisions that very likely resulted in unnecessary deaths here in New York. Even as he's being investigated by the Department of Justice, even as there are lawsuits pending, books alleging that negligence and greed resulted in death in the hospitals. We know that
he's so good looking and he's so charming, and he won an Emmy, and allegedly there's all this bad stuff, right? That's alleged, but he's so charming. His leadership qualities are unquestionable, and he got an Emmy. And I felt like there were so many other people that were similarly deserving that got left out. And so when I looked at the calendar and I realized it's been a full 2 months since we did the first International CRONY Awards. So this will be the second biannual CRONY Awards tonight.
Isn't it more than 2 months? We did it in June, I think.
Oh, I thought it was September. Okay. I think the show it's on my Johnny Hoover channel.
Struck me in August.
It's not on your channel. Really? In August?
Yeah, I think we did it in June.
Okay. Well, anyway, we need to do at least 2 of these a year because it's so good. And there's so much at stake, right? When you look at the International CRONY Awards and you look at what's at stake compared to the Tonys, right? Compared to the Oscars or the Golden Globes or the People's Choice Awards, what we're talking about is actual life and death stuff, right? So just so much more at stake. And right now on the red carpet, I think I see Dr. Birx coming in. Oh, that's fantastic. And there's Dr. Fauci on the red carpet. So why don't we see if we can get 1 or 2 awards in before we have to go to our patron only hour?
Sure.
The awards get a little more, how would you say, less YouTube friendly the deeper we go into the presentation. So the first 2 awards, very YouTube friendly. And then the deeper we go, we probably couldn't do that here. So forgive us. We'll be on Patreon and Subscribe Star what, 15, 12 minutes from now, whatever it is, whatever the timing is. Where are we at, Jason?
Just about 20 minutes from now. Also, before we do that, John, I want to let our viewers know, if they're watching for the first time, John and I are doing a sponsor-exclusive show every Friday. People can also subscribe to the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. The live videos, the YouTube previews are simulcast on the John E. Hoover channel. And also, John is creating tons of unique videos that you can only get, and it's free. So you should subscribe to his YouTube channel. It's interesting, John. The Andrew Cuomo YouTube channel has about half as many viewers as Crowdsource the Truth, the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. Funny, I'm not the governor. I'm not on TV every day. The president has never mentioned me. I haven't been on CNN. My brother doesn't work for CNN. My father was never the governor of New York. Yet despite all that, Andrew Cuomo cannot garner enough interest in his masterful TV shows that feature stories and characters. He can't seem to garner as many viewers as we do. Maybe he's jealous.
Well, it's not just him. Quite frankly, if you look at, I think, the Emmy Award summation broadcast at the Hollywood Reporter YouTube channel, like 1,500, 1,800, 10,000 views. I mean, you get more views walking around New York City with an iPhone in your hand than the Emmys get on YouTube. I mean, it's kind of what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, it's.
And I think they hate that, John, because I'm showing everybody what's really going on here in New York, and they want people to believe that somehow Andrew Cuomo has taken actions that have helped New York in some way in his response to the pandemic. If anything, he's made it way worse.
Well, I said it before, and I'll say it again. Your reporting in New York City has been unique and unlike anything people are seeing anywhere else. There's nobody from CNN who's walking around and showing people what's happening. People don't understand the impact that it's having on the street. And quite frankly, New York City is a different type of city than most cities, right? Los Angeles doesn't really have an area like where you walk around, right? I mean, you lived in LA, right?
Yeah.
What was that song? Nobody walks in LA, right? There was a song called Nobody Walks in LA.
You can't really.
Nobody walks in LA. Right. So it's spread out more. But what you've done in New York, nobody's done. NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, MSN, nobody's showing anybody the truth of what's happening other than Crowdsource the Truth. And for that, again, tip of the hat. You keep doing it. People are watching it. People want to see it. I mean, you walk around the city, you get 15, 20,000, 30,000 views on YouTube. And over on Band, you're getting, even more, which is kind of crazy, given how many people watch here versus at Band. So you're getting the same thing with my channel. So I'm getting more views at Band when we do this show on Band. Mm-hmm. It gets more views there than it does on my channel.
That's happening consistently, and I do want to thank Alex Jones and his team at InfoWars for allowing us access to this YouTube alternative. People can go to banned.video, BANNED.video, totally free. And as you said, John, many more people are viewing our videos there. We aren't subject to the communist leftists who like to delete our videos. I have this phone call with the CEO of the International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, Bruce Paisner. He's an interesting guy, John. He was the editor of the Harvard Crimson. He seems like he's friends with Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil, who was ousted. There's a lot of questions about the election there. And, Mr. Paisner likes the former socialist president so much, she's featured right here on his Wikipedia page. He was also the editor of the Harvard Crimson. And I don't know if you know this, John, but there was an article in the Harvard Crimson on November 22nd, 1963, about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And
on
this
what
guy
date?
was the editor. Well, on the day that he was assassinated, there was an assassination article
Yeah, and he was the editor at mhm.
Yeah, it's the thing that's strange about the article is that it doesn't. They've got the article recreated here. I should have had it ready. Point of the matter is, Paisner, who's now the CEO of the International Television Academy, was the editor. He was the managing editor of the Harvard Crimson. There's this article on the day that Kennedy is assassinated. It's attributed to no particular author, and I think he wrote it. So he's there reporting on the JFK assassination, and it's
socializing with socialists, and he's with the Emmys.
Strange how all these guys seem to be. I wasn't ready to share that, so I'm getting a bit off on a diversion. But why don't you go straight to the first CRONY Award, John?
Let's do it. So again, the excitement is palpable. These awards are for excellence in coronavirus C-19 management. So why don't we go to the first award? The first award is the award for a damn job for an entire continent. And, you know, there's only a certain number of continents, right? And when we look at the number of people who have died per continent, well, let's go back. Let's look at who was the winner last time, Jason. At the last awards, who was our winner? Who's the current winner? Let's go to the next slide. The next slide will show us who the.
Okay.
Oh, the last award show, the winner was Australia. And at that time, at our last award show, Australia had 102 people dead. Okay. So let's see who the winner is for this year's award for damn fine job for an entire continent. The envelope, please, Jason. And the winner is?
Oh.
Again, it's Australia. One more time, 2 years in a row, Australia takes the award. What a damn fine job for an entire continent. Now,
but joking
what you
aside,
see, Jason,
John, joking aside,
yes,
the reason why we make this sort of ironic, parody-laden send-up of an awards show is that it seems to me a true leader, if Andrew Cuomo was really interested in controlling this virus rather than directing federal funds to his New York State coffers, wouldn't he send some sort of New York Health and Hospitals research team to Australia, to Cambodia, to Nigeria, ask some of these countries, what are you guys doing that's different? How many people live in Australia versus New York?
Well, this is exactly what you and I have been, advocating since March, right? Since you asked me to look at the map, right? You said, look at this thing. I looked at the map and I'm like, well, there's nobody dead over here. Why don't you guys just pick up the phone? Right. You don't know anybody in Japan? You don't know anybody in Korea? You can't pick up the phone? What's wrong with you? You don't even have to get on a plane. Just pick up the phone or do your stupid Zoom.
Fact-finding mission. To be clear, the map that you're talking about is, we're not questioning data. We're helping them to publicize this data, to educate the public about their own data. This is information that's coming to us from Johns Hopkins University. As I understand it, this is somehow an official source of data. This is at least what Andrew Cuomo is looking at, and it says New York has something like 35,000 people dead.
34,000. And we're going to look at that. Again, Andrew Cuomo certainly deserves the accolades that he's received by winning an Emmy Award, right? I mean, he's got to be real proud. I'm sure his mom is proud. But there's so many other remarkable performances that we need to look at, right? Besides just New York. Yeah. So hats off to Australia. Let's go back to the slide deck, because since our last award show, Jason, if you look at how many, no, go back up to Australia. If you look at how many people had died in Australia on the left, that's our last award show, 102. Since then, they've had 800 more people die, 805. Now, if you look at that little arky spike in the lower right-hand corner, right, so their original outbreak was next to nothing compared to their second peak. So their binodal outbreak is somewhat remarkable. and looks a lot like some of the states in the United States that weren't having a bad time when New York was having a bad time. So remember when New York and New Jersey was all hell was breaking loose, but it wasn't that bad in Florida, and it wasn't that bad in Texas.
Right.
And then Florida and Texas got worse later, right?
Probably Donald Trump's fault, right? According to Cuomo.
Yeah. Most likely it's all his fault, and Cuomo's going to punch him in the mouth for it. He forgot about the Javits Center and the floating hospital. He forgot about that, but he doesn't have a good memory. It's okay. Nipple clamps do that to you, by the way. Australia, 900 people are dead compared to 100. So that's an increase of 800%.
Wow.
It's not good, right?
No.
That's not good, but it's better than Rhode Island. And so they win the award for damn fine job for an entire continent, despite the fact that they've had a runaway second node. They still have their deaths at below 1,000, and that's better than Rhode Island.
And to be clear, John, no actual continents will be joining us here tonight. No actual awards will be given. This entire thing is a joke intended to poke fun at, to criticize, and make commentary about, using humor, using parody and irony.
I got chapstick.
We're not giving that out.
I've got a guitar pick.
We won't be giving that out. No awards. This is merely commentary, opinion, editorial, and information for people to make up their own minds about whether it was a good and legitimate choice. I mean, most people don't think it was a great idea to give Cuomo the Emmy, but what have we got next?
Well, I think his performance was remarkable. Well, again, when you look at Australia, one of the things about Australia, so even though they had an 800% increase in deaths, the good news is there's no influenza, right? So Australia was one of the countries that was in the CDC's white paper that was the basis for my Nobel Prize winning white paper.
Well,
so I based well, of course, but who's going to beat me? Right?
Robert David Steele is in the running. You better be careful.
Yeah. So this paper from the CDC points out that there's basically no influenza in Australia. And you and I have been pointing out on the show for 6 months, there's no influenza anywhere, right? It disappeared in week 11. And I mean, we may need to make up a new hashtag, week 11, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's when it disappeared. So the good news is there's no influenza in Australia. The bad news is there's a whole bunch of people dying, I guess, from COVID. But the good news is there's no influenza.
Well, we've got just about 2 minutes left, John. Do we have time for another CRONY Award recipient?
Yes. All right. One last one. You got to go 2 pages down. So Australia, no influenza. Great stuff. All right. I had to change the name of this award. The old name, I was afraid we would get struck from YouTube.
Politically
incorrect.
New name,
yeah. So the new name for this award is the Damn Fine Job for a Medically Challenged Infrastructure. This is the new, kinder, gentler John Cullen. So damn fine job for a medically challenged infrastructure, right? When we couldn't use the old nomenclature. And in the last award show, Bangladesh walked away. They had fewer dead than Minnesota. I mean,
including the George Floyd riots?
Including it all. It was remarkable. And so Bangladesh did an amazing job. Also, there's no influenza. But let's take a look at this year's nominees. Let's give out the award. Then we got to go to our patron-only hour. Let's take a look. Next slide. So Bangladesh, with fewer dead than Minnesota, with 165 million people, but fewer people dead than Minnesota, right? How amazing is that? Now, again, I'm not saying they didn't socially distance. I'm not saying I don't know what the hell they did. They could have had, everybody drinking tomato soup. I don't know what the secret to their success is. I just know how much better they are than Minnesota and Michigan and Connecticut, right?
have a mini grilled cheese sandwich in the tomato soup. 5.6 million people in Minnesota, John.
Compared to, go back to the slide deck, how many? 5.6 million versus?
How many in Bangladesh? 165 million.
5 million. All right. So there's your comparison. Now let's go to the next slide. Let's see who the nominee is. Let's give this award, and then we got to jump. Yeah. All right. So this season, Bangladesh, all right, who should be a nominee, went from 1,095 deaths to 6,500 deaths, but it appeared that they were at depletion of susceptibles, but now they're peaking back up. Next slide, real quick. We got to wrap it up. This season's nominees: Bangladesh is nominated with 6,500 dead. Nigeria with 208 million is nominated with only 1,169 dead. Wow. That's remarkable. Next slide. Next slide. Remarkable.
Doing very well.
Next slide.
Nigeria.
Thailand, 70 million people, 60 dead. Ethiopia, 116 million people, only 1,686 dead. Wow. Vietnam, right? And the Democratic Republic of Congo, holy mackerel, these are the nominees. Let's take a look at the envelope. Next slide, Jason.
And the winner is, John.
The winner
Vietnam,
is
only 35 dead.
Only 35 dead with a population of 98 million. But Cuomo couldn't pick up the phone and say, "What are you guys doing over there?"
Remarkable performance for a Shitholi.
Is it 7 feet that we should be socially distancing and not 6? You didn't ask? Hypothetically speaking.
I do want to take us out of this segment, John, with a bit of a more serious approach to this. We're not trying to make light of anybody's death. We just want people to understand that what we're being told in the mainstream news doesn't seem to comport with the information, even as we take it directly from the CDC. Every week we get criticism from people saying, "Oh, you believe the numbers. Why are you believing these numbers?" What we're trying to do is we're trying to give some commentary within the context of what we're being told to point out how even within the context of this story itself, it doesn't make sense. So the fact that the International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences would choose to reward Andrew Cuomo for what, by their own measurements, is such a terrible performance is absolutely astounding. And John, we're going to carry on with the CRONY virus, the International CRONY Awards in 2 minutes. We've got to get over there to subscribestar.com and patreon.com/IamJohnCullen and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Huge thank you to our sponsors. They're you, the viewers. So there's no major corporation who's shoving money into John or my pockets to get us to nominate these CRONY winners. It's you guys. We'll see you over there in just a minute.